Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys an update to my Swordsoul deck profile. Now, a little bit ago, this deck did get some new support in Supreme Darkness, so we're going to be showing that off here. I did take this to locals, and I actually got second place, so this is actually not like my exact list. I did a little bit of tweaking that I did after locals, so just to be clear, like I did make some modifications. I was playing the deck at 43, and then I ended up making some tweaks, taking the deck back down to an exact 40. There's been a lot of people who have been playing the deck at like 42, 43, even 45. I've seen a couple of lists. However, I still think that like the power plays come in like seeing like Mo-Yi in your opening hand, or like eventually getting to Taya and all that kind of stuff. So I think still playing this deck at 40 cards is sort of the best play. You're not really playing like the draw engines and stuff in the deck with like triple tactics talent and all that stuff, but still the deck is very powerful. We're playing like all of the main pieces that you need, and again, just sticking at 40. So maybe a little bit less hand traps than most people play, but still, I still think that the deck is like super duper strong. So we will get on into it. So we're playing 3 copies of Mo-Yi here. Mo-Yi, obviously, like sort of your main starter of the deck. You want to be able to see her like every single time. Then we're getting on into our 3 copies of Longyun. This guy used to kind of be our guy for time. However, like now we have our Link monster that we pay 4,000 for, but still this guy does come up when you need him in time. But just also like being a fire is also relevant, because sometimes you want to bring him onto the field if you need to like lock out fire decks, but fire is not nearly as prevalent as before. But we're still just playing like all of the good attributes, and this guy is just great for your Synchro 10 plays. Then we're getting on into our 2 copies of Taya. Taya just kind of keeps getting better now that we have like so much access to the Tenyi lines and stuff, and like just filling our graveyard and all that stuff. Like Taya, like off the top, is actually like still pretty darn good. So like there's actually just like a lot of things that Taya can get you. We are now playing 2 copies of Incredible Ecclesia the Virtuous. I've seen a lot of lists cutting this down to 2, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, like you do already have, you've got more tuners in the deck now that we have the new Tenyi Saruya, all that kind of stuff, and just the fact that this card, it is a little bit bricky when you draw it going first, and we plan to go first during like half of our games, so for that reason, playing this at 2 copies, it's still good to see every now and then, but you still just definitely don't want to see it all the time. And again, we're just trying to keep this down to a clean 40 cards, so that's sort of the other reasoning there for cutting that down to 2. 3 copies of Ashuna. Again, I still just always love seeing this card in my opening hand. This card gets you to so much. And then we are playing 2 copies of the Tenyi Spirit Saruya. This card is insane for the deck. However, I do still think that you can just play it at 2. I've seen a lot of lists playing it at 3. I mean, and I get it. This card just does so much for like it doesn't seem like it does that much, but being able to get a free rank 4 onto the field is really crazy. Or even a rank, or sorry, did I say rank? I meant link 4. Or you can even go for the link 1 if you really need to, or the link 2 as well. Like there's all the applications because it doesn't necessarily negate their effects or anything. And this card just being able to special summon, like get some synchro action going is really crazy. But I still just think that you can play this at 2. You see this card so often, especially because your Mula at Hara gives you access to your field spell, and then the field spell gets you to your vessel and all that stuff. Like there are just so many ways to get this, and then like if you do that line before you get to this guy, then like with her later, then you just go into Chichao or something like that. Like there's just so many lines that you can do, and it's perfectly fine playing her at 2. If you guys are playing her at 3, I would challenge you to like try playing her at 2 and see what you think. Maybe like get your deck count down a little bit. Then we're still playing 2 copies of Vishuda. This card is great going second, or even just going first, trying to like make things like going into your Chaofeng and stuff. It's still really important. Then we're playing our 2 copies of Edhara, and then 1 copy of Shathana. Shathana is also similar to your Taya. It just seems like it keeps getting better with age. And this card now being a 4 with your Saruya as a tuner here, like these 2 cards going in for your Synchro 8 plays is now super relevant. Before, Shathana was just always kind of a body. It was here for its attribute, its typing, all that kind of stuff, and also for its graveyard effect. But now it's actually relevant that it's a 4, and you can do some like good synchro plays. Then we're obviously playing the one copy of Protos. You got to be playing this card. This, if if you talk to a Swordsoul player, they're gonna say that this is Protos Turbo or Protos.deck. Still, I think that like you got to be playing this card, obviously. And it got reprinted, which is great for all the people who didn't previously have access to it. It's an annoying card. It like, I don't know why it's not banned, but if it's not banned, we're gonna play it. Then we're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom. This card, we're playing a handful of hand traps. We're also playing 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Droll and Lockbird is also just really great. I feel like this format kind of underappreciated. Even like on the rogue decks, on the meta decks, they add to hand, you drop Droll and Lockbird. It's gonna, maybe it won't totally kill their hands. Like Blue Eyes still has ways to play through that with like True Light and all that stuff. But still, it's gonna severely drop their combos down. Yeah, so not much to say there. Droll and Lockbird, I think, is just one of the best hand traps that you got to be playing. And that's it for like the monster hand traps. Then we're getting on into 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence. Great way to search your Protos or just really anything in the deck. And then 1 copy of Sacred Summit. I've seen a lot of players dropping this, and I was really close to dropping it. And like, still keeping in my 3rd Ecclesia, or maybe playing a 3rd Saruya or something like that. But I feel like the utility of Sacred Summit is still really, really great. There are moments where like you maybe want to search for Sacred Summit, because then you could like bring a Taya back from the graveyard. Like maybe you pitch a Taya to grave with your Vessel or something like that, and you use Sacred Summit to be able to bring it back. Like there's just so many applications for this card. You can just bring back a big like a Swordsoul monster from your graveyard. There's just so much that this card does, so I just still wanted to keep it in here. Then getting on into like my favorite little package here, we have the field spell stuff for the Tenyi things. So we have the Tenyi Infinity, which eventually gets you into Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi, but also this card on activation searches you either for Heavenly Dragon Circle or Vessel of the Dragon Cycle. I've seen people messing around with ratios, playing like 2 copies of this, maybe even 2 copies of this. I still think it's really great at 1-on-1. If you get interrupted with like an infinite impermanence and stuff, that's kind of why we have Saruya now. So like this is why this card was like basically a custom card to fix this deck. The summoning the Link thing from the extra deck is a little bit wonky, but it works. It does a great thing. But again, like this is a custom card to fix Tenyi Swordsoul, because if you get hit by those hand traps and you don't have Heavenly Dragon Circle, then you just summon this, and that's your tuner anyways. And then also, like, being able to go in for the line into the Mudda Adhara, being able to get into all of these cards is just insane. So, like, you're basically always going to see Vessel, which is really great, in my opinion. And having the Heavenly Dragon Circle is great as well. But this card just gets so bolstered with the fact that it can search for your Saruya, or it can search for, or it can dump, like, dump a Vishuda or something like that. So this card just insane. And Dragon Circle still, like, I don't want to drop its credit either. It's really great. 1 copy of Called by the Grave. This is a big reason why I still wanted to drop this deck down to 40 cards, because Called by the Grave is still very impactful in this format. If your opponent is hitting you with a Mulcharmy card, or they're just gonna like Ash Blossom, you know, one of your big searches or something like that, it can be really impactful. Like this deck, sometimes you just open up really butt hands. Like the reason why I got 2nd place, shout out to Matt at my locals who beat me. Basically in game 2 of our round, like I opened up with like 2 Ash Blossoms, Tenyi Spirit Adhara, Swordsoul Emergence, and 1 other card, and whatever it was, it didn't do anything. And so I activated the Emergence, that got negated, and I just had no follow-up. Like there was just nothing. I think I set an Ash Blossom face down. Having Called by the Grave is really great for being able to stop your opponents like Ash Blossoms and stuff like that. Things like that, and just being able to make sure that you can play through whatever else they're throwing at you. And again, like because of those bricky hands that you have, sometimes I cut down on 3 hand traps, which was Nibiru, and brought the deck back down to 40. I know I've said that a lot, but I just want to keep that in mind, sort of like the theory upon this deck build. We then have 1 copy of Blackout in here, and then 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Still obviously want to play this card. And then you can definitely tinker around with the hand traps, like take Droll out if you want to play other stuff like whatever else works for you. And then in the side deck, you can obviously play like Mulch Armies and all that stuff as well. But let's get on into the extra, which, fun fact, if you guys hadn't noticed, like for at least for most people's builds, now the extra deck is 100% archetype of Tenyis, Swordsouls, and also the Yang Zings, which is just really cool. I think that it's awesome that every single card is now like not generic. It's actually like in archetype. So we're playing the Mula Edhara and then the Draco Berserker for our Tenyi names. The Mula Edhara, this card is just insane. There's some really great combos if you guys want to watch on Team Samurai X's channel. He's got really great combos on like how you can even sack this card with your Dragon Circle to be able to like get even more advantage. So like there's just like crazy things that you can do. Like this card hitting the field like actually does so much, even though it seems like a very simple card. Then we're going to get on into 2 copies of Boxia. This card's still just pretty mandatory at 2 copies. Then we're playing the 1 copy of Yazi. I previously took this out of the deck, but it's really great to see this card back in here because this card is such a great toolbox for the deck. And then our 1 copy of Chaofeng. This card is really insane for playing up against Blue Eyes or any other deck that's playing Nibiru, so that's really crazy. Then for our Swordsouls, we're playing our 2 copies of Chichao. So like kind of your mandatory cards, it seems like, is always like 2 Boxia, 2 Chichao. So like these cards, you just kind of always got to keep them in these ratios. 1, like 2 for if you're going first, and then like at least 1 for when you're going second if you're just trying to break through boards and stuff. So this card just insane. Then we're playing 1 copy of each of the 10s, the Changying and the Longyun, also just really insane cards. And then we're playing our 3 copies of Monk of the Tenyi. I previously had this at 2, and then I was playing 1 copy of Dragite. And then when I decided to take Nibiru out of the deck completely, then I realized, you know what, let's play 3 Monk and drop the Dragite finally, and like just worry about negating or interrupting like monsters, and we'll deal with the spell trap cards in the side deck. So we'll get there a little bit later. But and you also just don't really need Dragite, it seems like nowadays, because you still just have access to Boxia. Boxia can basically do the same thing with like bouncing things. And again, like this card just also has just extra utility for like your graveyard effects and all that stuff. Then we have, lastly, we have our Shaman of the Tenyi, and then we have the Tenyi Spirit Sahasrara. There we go. Okay, so Tenyi Spirit Sahasrara. This card, I think this is like the first time that this card has actually seen play, which is really cool though. Link 4, this card being able to like get you a free token. It kind of almost feels like you're playing with Gores in 2025, which is really cool. Just gets you a token equal to your opponent's attack, and then it like helps protect your effect monsters on the field. So it's just really, really cool. Just absolutely love like the extra deck lineup now. It's perfect in my opinion. I love how the extra deck is looking. But anyways, let's get on really quickly into the side deck. This isn't the exact side deck again that I was playing when I was playing at my locals. However, I just still thought it was really great to show you guys at least probably like 7 or 8 of these cards that I think are pretty mandatory. So these cards, the 3 Judgment here used to be Gravity Collapse. I now changed it to be 3 copies of Judgment because again, I took the Dragite out of the deck. So I'm definitely not getting into any spell trap negation with my end board. You still have Interruption with your Longyun, but still 3 Solemn Judgment just to be able to like negate a big card like Dark Ruler No More, or whatever your opponent's going to throw at you that's going to try to bust through your board. Judgment is just really great there. The thing is, you got to make sure that you get this guy out before you use Judgment. So this is going to cost you 4,000 life points, and then you're going to Judgment for another 2,000. But and it might seem like a lot. Like if you're going into time and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be like, well, do I really want to be paying those life points? Well, the thing is, like if you just end on these here, like your opponent might not be busting through your board. Like you're just going to be ending on so much interruption and negation that your opponent might just get like a couple activations, and then they're going to go, okay, I can't play anything. Pass back to you, and then you just run right into battle phase or something and kick their butts on the crackback. I know it doesn't always work like that when you're going into time, but still, it seems like this is just the best thing to do. Then we're playing 1 copy of Summon Breaker because for some reason, this card is basically worm locked because it says that you can only search for a field spell if you have like if this card is synchro summoned and you have 2 or more worm monsters in your graveyard or banished. However, like this fact that it searches for any field spell, it just seems like this is going to get like busted eventually. And we're going to start off with 1 copy of Summon Breaker. People are also playing Necro Valley, but I feel like Summon Breaker just hits every deck. Like what are you trying to hit with Necro Valley that like Summon Breaker just can't do? If your opponent is like really graveyard reliant and all that kind of stuff, like they can't banish from graveyard, but they can still banish like stuff from hand or whatever, all that kind of stuff. So like there's just tons of different ways that I feel like Summon Breaker does more than Necro Valley does. I feel like Necro Valley is just the cliche cool card to play when you're trying to play a field spell floodgate. But Summon Breaker, like if your opponent just goes 3 summons and then it's the end phase, that's just it. Like and if your opponent if you're playing up against like a deck that is trying to get into something like no one's playing Nightmare Phoenix really nowadays, but if they're trying to get into SP Little Knight on all that stuff, that's still going to take, what, 3-4 summons, because you get out Monster 1, Monster 2, and then, like, you put Monster 1 or 2 into a Link monster, like a Link 1 or something, and then you have to go into a 3rd monster to get into your SP Little Knight. So, like, yeah, the 4th summon would be SP Little Knight to be able to get rid of Summon Breaker. So for that reason, like, this card is just super duper powerful to be able to play as a floodgate. So then for our last going first card, we have D-Barrier. Then for cards that are like good going second or first, if you're playing up against Fluanderies, which still comes up, especially at my locals, or if you're playing up against Malice and stuff, you want to be playing 3 copies of Lancia. Then for our, we have 2 copies of Thrust. I usually just always like playing this at 2, unless I really, really desperately need to see a card. Then I'll play it at 3, but I still think that 2 is fine here. 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent. And then this is a little bit wonky looking, but I only have space for 2 copies of Droplet in my side. And then for our last 2 thrust targets going second are 1 copy of Lightning Storm, 1 copy of Evenly Matched. So, you know, Droplet, just because this card works so well with the deck, but it's not searchable. So I'm playing that at 2 for breaking through boards. And then 1 copy each of Evenly Matched and Lightning Storm, which can be searched off of your thrust. And then also your thrust can obviously search for like your D barrier and stuff. So this looks like it definitely worked really good this week. I changed up, like I said, like the Solemn Judgments and stuff, but otherwise, this is pretty much the side deck that I was playing. But anyways, guys, that is going to finally do it for this deck profile. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It's been really cool picking up this deck again. Definitely could change around some of the ratios if you guys want. If you guys want to play it at more than 40 cards, definitely let me know what you guys are playing in your build. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, if you guys like the content, and we will catch you for the next one. Peace.